Hey everyone, my name is Daniel, and today we'll be exploring time signatures in music. To start, let's define what a time signature is and what they look like. So, time signatures are the stacked numbers either at the beginning of a piece or also they may be at towards the middle of a section of the piece. And usually they appear as stacked numbers, or sometimes they appear as a letter C, or variations of the letter C, such as this one, which has a little cross through it. Regardless, they represent how many beats are in each measure and how much time each note receives. Okay, so now that we have some idea of what a time signature is, let's learn how to decipher one and read it. In this example, we see two notes, two fours stacked up on each other, as shown here. And the top four tells us how many beats are in each measure. And the bottom four tells us what kind of note receives one beat. This particular example is read out as 4/4 time. With the guidelines we learned, this has 4 beats in each measure, and a quarter note receives 1 beat. Let's try another one. This one has a 3 on the top and a 4 on the bottom. Using what we learned here, the top number must mean that there are 3 beats in each measure, and the bottom number means that there are 4, that the note that receives 1 beat is the quarter note. Moving on, let's explore more examples and practice some. Just for reference, I put the previous portion of the slide here. And let's start with this example. Okay, so for this one we have the top number is 6 and the bottom number is 8. So the top number, since it tells us how many beats are in a measure, therefore there are 6 beats in a measure. And since the bottom number tells us what kind of note receives 1 beat, there the 8th note receives 1 beat. Cool, and let's try another one. So here we see the top number is 2. Therefore, there are 2 beats in the measure, and the bottom number is 4, which means that the quarter note receives 1 beat. Okay, so now we have 2 more examples. Here we have a 7 as the top number and an 8 as the bottom number. So just take 10 seconds now just to figure out what the top number is, what the top number means, and what the bottom number means. If you need help, you can always refer to this little reference chart at the top of the slide. Cool, okay. So if you are correct, you should have gotten 7 beats per measure, and the 8th note receives 1 beat. Last one here is 2/2 time, which has a top number of 2 and a bottom number of 2. This one's a little more tricky because the bottom number, we haven't seen this before in the previous slides. So take just 5 seconds and make your best guess on what this is telling us. Okay, so you should have gotten 2 beats per measure, and a half note receives 1 beat. Okay, moving on. We're going to move on to some special cases. So remember those C's that we saw earlier. So those C's don't have any numbers stacked on them. So are they time signatures? Yes, they are time signatures, but there's a special case. And they're just a fancy way for composers and arrangers to write 4/4 time. So this C here represents common time, and it's the same as 4/4 time. So in music, let's say there's a piece that was written in 4/4 time. Instead of writing the 4/4, we could write a C, and that would replace that 4/4, but mean the same thing. And the other variation that we saw earlier was a C with a slash on the middle of it, in the middle of it. And this is an interesting way of writing cut time, or à la brève, which is the same as 2/2 time, which is one of the examples that we explored earlier. And like I said before, these special cases are simply different ways for composers and arrangers to write time signatures that are a little more common. Cool. So with that said, that concludes this video on time signatures. I hope that this has been informative, and thank you for watching.